Hello, everyone, and welcome to the. Oh, we have an anniversary again, like the 30th episode of the ArtaCast. Um, as promised, we are earlier this. It's earlier from since the last episode because last episode was a bit delayed, and so you get two ArtaCasts in like 4 days. Isn't that amazing?
Just so lucky. Just
You're
so
so
lucky.
lucky. I wish I were you. I wish I were you, listeners. No. Yeah. We. What do we do today? We both did our first testings with proxies.
Yep.
With the new set. With cards of the new set. With like some hyped deck ideas or like deck ideas that the community came up with. We also both did our responsibility and worked on green purple, and we will talk about that later. Seems all kind of promising to me, honestly.
Yeah.
But we will come to that later. Um, First of all, how was your week? You did also a quite good amount of testing, you said. And which decks did you work on or did you play?
Yeah. No, my week's been good. First of all, I want to wish our own podcast happy 30th episode. I hope that the podcast has an easier time turning 30 than I did. I had a bit of an existential crisis and didn't handle it very well. So maybe we'll just transition nicely, much more smoothly in the podcast and on to a fruitful 30s. Yeah, I had a good week. Lots of testing. I, like you say, spent a fair bit of time on green purple, and the initial results look really positive. I know we kind of started over the course of the week. We had quite different thoughts on a few things and directions, and it feels like we're kind of coming back together, which is a good feeling. And I also spent a lot of time with red green, which I will talk about as well. A bit of a rogue option, but there were enough cards in set 8 that kind of got me very excited for this potential for a red green discard deck. So yeah, I've got some hopefully interesting stuff to say on that and a few conclusions drawn. But on the whole, feeling pretty positive about the format. There's a lot of, I would say, like maybe my biggest feeling is that lots of stuff is not as good as it first seemed.
Yeah.
Like it, I'm not finding sleepers. It's not that like anything, all this was secret broken the whole time. It's that many of the things that people hypothesized would be great are actually like a bit fairer than they seemed and are certainly a lot easier to beat. So yeah, is that kind of, would you say that's sort of the main feeling you got too from your testing?
Yeah. Like, I really sure there will be no ban this season. I don't think
I
it will
agree.
be necessary. As the people are, yeah. I think it's all not figured out yet. I think there could be still
For sure.
some options or some combos that could be quite broken. We also like did find we found some things quite late sometimes in the meta game. So like
Mm,
I
yeah.
remember the DKP deck was really late into set 6, where DKP brought that up and a completely new archetype, you could say. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm still interested. I did not work on it yet, but I feel kind of challenged to. We will not discuss this today because I did not work it up. But yeah, but I still want to make the how's it called, the New Orleans card work, and
Yep.
I am interested in trying that out because many good players and many players I have a high opinion talk say me the card is not good, and yeah, I mean, I what I really experience about evaluating new cards is like I I'm really good at evaluating green or purple cards,
Hmm.
but in other colors I see my issues sometimes.
No,
But yeah, to name it, like the Beyond the Horizon, for example, is not that. I found it not that hard to beat than other
yeah.
um, people say, but of course, we are like green purple should be a good color combination against it, because all color combinations that can dump the hand really good is like kind of a good strategy against it. I could imagine like red purple has a really hard time against such decks with Beyond the Horizon, so you could still see it like very busted to just a simple one card that crushes a deck completely. But yeah,
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 I totally agree on Beyond the Horizon. That was kind of last week. You know, we both put it at number one in our top picks, and I think that it is certainly, you know, it's probably still there in terms of like the actual power level of cards in the set. There were a few things that are in the conversation, but people were throwing around discussion about bans, that sort of thing, and I think that some of the play patterns are really toxic, but not too much more toxic than other stuff we've seen. And there is counterplay to it, which is like really important and something that like people would be bored of hearing me say. Um, as long as there is reasonable counterplay to stopping some of this stuff, there's only sort of so oppressive it can become. Which is why, like, my feeling after the first week of testing is I'm not too sure what I'm not too confident what the very best decks are, but I'm certainly confident that whatever I'm playing has 4 copies of 2 cost Ursula in it. That's not really much different for me compared to everything I've played in the past, but like as long as I have that, I feel fine for the most part, and
but you can
that's like a
now.
non-negotiable. It's
You
like a
don't
non-negotiable right now.
you don't need to play Ursula 2-drop anymore because you can play Ludwig now. You know.
You can play Ludwig. It's a very, very good point. And you know, and a point that I should have to answer as I put Ludwig on my top cards list. I should, yeah, there's some accountability there. I should Ludwig is so much better than 2 cost Ursula, and
Theoretically, yeah.
yeah, yes, theoretically. The color restriction is so much more restrictive than it even appears. Like it looks very restrictive because blue yellow is not good and it's not represented at the moment, um, and doesn't have a lot of exciting angles to play outside of like Navining a down in New Orleans, which I think is a complete gimmick deck and is really bad. But the major restriction is that those colors prevent you from ever bouncing it, which are, you know, there's no muses to return it to your hand and replay it. There are no mims to do that. You do this once and it's done. And actually, that is a really big difference versus 2 cost Ursula. That even the extra sort of all of the extra relevant text on Ludwig is it's not a better card because it's just not playable. You can't, yeah, it's not as it doesn't set up these like chains of disruption that you normally want to do.
And it's uninkable.
Yeah,
You have to be. You have to say
yeah,
too. Yeah. Like it's
yeah,
also something.
totally.
Yeah, but maybe we just kind of opened that discussion already. So we
Yeah,
talk about the. I think people will consider them as the day one winners. You could say like Green
yeah,
Steel
yeah.
and Ember Steel, with the addition of the
Hmm.
Beyond the Horizon. I tested both decks. A lot is maybe too much, but at least when I play testing, I do it like I play test against myself or against my wife. For Meta 5, for example, we do a lot of green purple testing games. Like I play my green
Hmm.
purple deck and she plays the other deck. We both play both with open hands. And honestly, the green steel, maybe some green steel player will now call me crazy. I'm not sure if green steel does need Beyond the Horizon at all, because it makes the deck. I mean, 1 or 2 copies are probably good, but if you play 1 or 2 copies, then that's not like a ban worthy situation or something like that. If you if
Sure,
you
yeah.
if you reimagine like last set where we got 4 inkable bells, 4 inkable Scrooge McDucks, 4 inkable Tamators, that was a complete different. The
Mm.
whole deck was different and with no cost, and now you have this uninkable high cost song which you have to be, which can do really powerful things. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely can decide games, but on the other hand, you have to think about how many of these cards you play in your deck. And if you play it as a 2-off, then the deck has only gained a bit and not that much of power level. You don't
Yeah.
see that card every game, and yeah, I don't know. And it's
And
surely a
it's sort
brick.
of,
It's surely a brick sometimes. And Green Steel was already like a little bit vulnerable to bricks. So it has to be figured out how this
yeah.
card can just make the deck better and not more bricky. I can say
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, totally agree. It feels like something that should be included because when these things line up and you do just get these linear blowout lines off, it's super powerful. One conclusion I drew was that like this is another uninkable song in a deck that actually a lot of the time, if you're playing something like green purple, for example, you all of your lines that you're looking for kind of revolve around disrupting these songs from hand, getting them out. You know, maybe you're a steel deck and you're peating at the right time. Um, it's not a new angle of attack. It's just a different
yeah.
proactive thing they can do. So the counterplay that you're used to doing versus green steel doesn't change. You don't need to change the way you're mulliganing. You're already looking for the same things. They just gain this thing that, like, if they draw it at the right time, can be crazy good. But like you say, there are bad times to draw it also. Um, I don't
Because
think that.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I don't think that either of us want to like diminish it, and
No, no,
we're certainly not sitting here saying it's bad.
no, no, no.
But there's like a tempering to do with like a lot of this dooming that happened early. At the start of last set, we were very vocal and certain about the fact that we thought that the dooming around Blue Steel in particular was like very grounded in truth. That was ban worthy. The word ban gets thrown around again now because there's new toxic play patterns. I don't think we're quite there. We need some time. Maybe it's really busted and I'm just not seeing quite how oppressive it can be. But first impressions are that like there's enough
But
counterplay, there are enough brick scenarios, and this is similar enough to what we've seen before from Green Steel that's been okay. Um, for me not to like, I'm not panicking right now. This is just a powerful thing that is new, and we will have to learn to play around.
yeah, because people made arguments like, oh, you play this, you play like turn 3 Ursula, turn 4 Muses, and then
Mm,
you play Prince John and sing that. And then I
yeah,
think, okay, of course that's busted, but doesn't the sudden chill get you there too when you have this setup and no counterplay to it, and then you just play a double sudden chill with 2 Muses triggers? Isn't that enough to win the game? Do you need then to have this 7-cost unlinkable song into your deck?
yeah.
I don't
I mean,
know.
often
Yeah.
it will be, yeah.
So I thought like that's not a really good argument for me. A good argument for me is like you completely deny like
Hmm.
outdraw game plans where I used to play
Yes.
with red purple. I used to simply like draw more cards than they can discard, and that's completely denied by that card, and that should hurt red purple players a lot. And if
Yes.
red purple players listen to this, they just call us stupid because we don't understand how good this card is and how it crushed red purple players, and that's
Yeah.
kind of reasonable
Yeah,
argument. So
totally.
yeah, so this
Because
card, yeah.
be, no, just because like we're coming at it from the angle of people who primarily like the counterplay we're talking about is like Ursulaing and Peating, that sort of thing. Red Purple has no way of stopping that, and its main response to aggressive discard lines were outdrawing them. That now you can't outdraw this. I can totally see how this card existing would make you very, very sad as a red purple player.
Hmm.
And maybe red purple players might have to think seriously about what they're playing if this becomes as prevalent as it looks like it's going to. But yeah, it's like these outdraw. Like what else tries to outdraw discard? Like blue red
Mm.
used to in the past when it had Hiram, but like
Yeah, no,
now
no,
it
yeah,
can't.
that's the thing. That's the additional downside for me for the card, because there are not that
Mm,
many decks that want to outdraw it, and it's mainly
exactly.
there to deny the outdrawing thing.
Yeah.
Um, So I also think, yeah, the green steel players of this world will figure that out. I think it's also not easy how to play with that card. I mean, there are many lines with it, and you can like either play for it or just try to top deck it or something like that. And against some matchups, I could imagine even keeping it in opening hand because there can't be an Ursula or something. So yeah, there is still a lot to learn with the card. So yeah, I could imagine the power level raises a bit with the card in the deck. But yeah, that's just our or my first impression that it's not.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, and mine is pretty much exactly the same. Yeah.
I can just show you my list right now.
Yep.
What I built. I think it's not. We don't need to talk about that much with it. It's basically a green steel deck with Beyond the Horizon. I also like the chip very much against some aggressive decks. I want to play more
Hmm.
chips because like sometimes you struggle when you play Prince John on turn 3 and they just turn everything sideways. Then you struggle sometimes
Yep.
to you can't hardcast in a sudden chill or something, and then you gain a discard and the body as well. So that's a cool card. I think kind of a cool addition. I think it's also never a really bad play, even if you have no Prince John. It's a decent card, I think, and also inkable. So I don't think it's a great cost to include in the deck. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the rest is
Nice.
not too new.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
do we also want to have a look at the while we're on Beyond the Horizon? Should we
yeah,
have a look at the Amber Steel list
yeah.
as well?
Because you built an Amber Steel deck.
Yeah, and this is again is like I don't think this is final numbers. This is
Mm-hmm.
more of like a proof of concept so that we can explain what people are trying to do with this card a little bit. Um, in Amber Steel, the basic plan seems to be, or the plan that people kind of is generating a lot of attention right now, is setting up your singers to be able to sing um, Beyond the Horizon on turn 4, draw your opponent up to 3, or they go down to 3 cards, and then you have forgotten me for 2 cards. So it's like you gain this ability to out of nowhere completely wipe out your opponent's hand, sort of like a inverse of what the whole new world decks have been doing for a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced that this is better than just whole new worlding people for Amber Steel.
Yeah, me
Um,
neither, me neither. But yeah, it's hard to say, but at least in some matchups it's worse. I could imagine like against red blue, it's maybe better because you never
yeah,
wanted to wield a red blue deck. So you just have this Beyond the Horizon, which not completely refills the hand. But I agree with you, yeah. That I don't know if
yeah.
that's the way to go. It's just we got new toys. We want to try them.
Yeah, and that's an important part of the process, and maybe the final conclusion for Amber Steel will be sort of somewhere between the two. They'll play a split on Whole New Worlds and Horizons, or yeah, it remains to be seen. But this is just like a sample list thrown together so that we can kind of show that concept, which is that you do the same. It's very powerful in a vacuum. Is that this same curve out as ever, 1, 2, 3, removing everything with your singers as you go up those turns on turn 4, exerting your stuff to horizon them, and then leaving your opponent with a single card in hand.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, like that is a very powerful thing that people
Mm-hmm.
are very interested in doing for good reason. Again, it's
But
as prone to disruption as anything else Amber Steel does, but yeah, it's a slightly different angle of attack for them, that it's going to take a bit of time to figure out how good this is versus just the traditional game plan, or if the two can coexist. Maybe there is a
yeah,
version of the deck that just does the same thing as ever and also has some access to this in like lighter numbers.
yeah. My first impression is also like I think people underestimate that. Nah, I don't know. I don't want to assume something. Maybe people don't think that, but um, that the sing together is like it's really how's the word? They need to exert these two characters. You don't have to
Yeah,
forget that. Like they completely free to trade then, and even for green steel, like you can say you have Prince John and then Muses and then you sing this. And as long as I have a 3 strength character on the board, like the Prince John is gone next turn, and if I have a
hmm
Fox or something, then the Muses is gone too. And then you need to, yeah, even if you have card advantage, you need to get that to a winning position then from the green steel side. So it's not like you always win the game if you have 3 card advantage or something. So you need to get that on the board. It's not that easy for green steel often, like to catch up a white board,
mm,
and then and for Amber still the same. So you could possibly do this on turn 3, like Cinderella
yeah,
Troubadour, and then you can do this on turn 3. So you leave myself with 3 cards in hand, but then 1 Fox and your complete board is gone. So
yeah,
because these 2 are exerted then, and then and then what? Then you have maybe 2 card advantage, and then 1 genie or 1 rabbit catches me up
mm,
probably, and yeah, it's like it's of course good. And again, like you said, we don't want to say the card is bad, but maybe because maybe our goal is just to calm down the people that it's not um that frightening than people think. At least,
yeah,
yeah, that's our only goal. I think we don't want to say the card
yeah,
is bad.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just like the sky is not falling, but
yeah.
it is a bit dark. It's raining.
It's really,
It's raining. It's definitely raining, but the
yeah,
sky's not falling completely. So that's all we're trying to say really is that it doesn't appear to be as oppressive as people were first thinking.
yeah. I think both decks will for sure will be in the new meta,
Yes.
of course, and for good reason. And they
Hmm.
need to be. If you build decks in the future, you will have to keep that 2 decks in mind to not lose to them. So that should be a goal in deck building for any
Yeah.
one of you. But yeah, still there is some. Where we come to that later. What you can do to maybe find a way to beat those strategies. Yeah.
Yep.
Should we now go to your new creation of red green, or
Yeah. Go on.
tell me what
Mm.
your first. I mean, I probably know it, but the listeners don't. So what was the first idea or the first thing you had in mind when you built the deck? Because I really appreciate I really want to have more color combinations be viable in the meta, and
Yeah.
that would be really cool.
Yeah. So, um, the card that got me looking at red green was Lilo,
Mm-hmm.
and as I kind of said in the last episode, I was like pretty high on that card. My opinions on it are cooling down. I think it's something that just like the kind of card that I really want to be good, and certainly like can do good things, but often doesn't quite come together. But yeah, I'll show like the first version of red green. This is what I put together, trying to make a red green discard style deck work with Lilo, and you basically get to just play. It's pretty easy to play 3 Lilos with this deck, but you're like dependent on Robin Hood to do it. So a Robin Hood that survives a turn and like you have a you came back in your hand, that's basically a 3. That's a 3 action turn. You
Mm-hmm.
quested Robin. Get a free action, ready it with you came back, quest again, get a free action. There's your 3 actions. You've got your
Mm-hmm.
Lilo, you can ready your Robin. You play sharks for like this massive inevitability. You have you get great answers to sharks, that sort of thing through Bruno, and you have your really explosive discard package with a bunch of Prince Johns, and you get to play Diablos, which is great. And for the most part, this was like really fun, had a great time. But there were a few cards that were kind of really underperforming. Um, And like that was the basic game plan, and it did come together, and it won like a fair few games. It was, it was a positive win rate. It was lining up pretty well. There's only so bad that a deck that with a bunch of Ursulas and Prince Johns and Diablos can be. And actually, a lot of the time, this was doing better things for me than like green steel or green purple discard,
Mm-hmm.
because you like topping the curve with a Maui or something really solved all the problems these decks had with
Mm-hmm.
losing the board, that sort of thing. So one day in the week, I kind of dedicated an evening to testing this out, running it a bunch of times, and I was really lucky to have some great players like backseating and commenting and stuff, and especially Ed Chu, the great Ed Chu, who we know and love, had some really good input to provide. And yeah, I'll show you the V2 of where I landed. Um, this was the second version where I'm at with it now. Notably, the Lilos are gone because we were trying to jump through too many hoops to get Lilos into play, and they weren't
Mm-hmm.
doing too much. But actually, the secret best card from set 8 for Red Green was Undermine. This,
Yeah, when you showed me the list, I read the card. I said, "Oh
yeah,
lol!" I totally oversaw that card. It's like a new discard
yeah,
card. It's yeah, I totally can see that.
yeah. So it's one of those cards that, like, on the surface, it doesn't look too exciting. But when you consider like how often you maybe hardcast sudden chills, that sort of thing, a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time, a lot often you were kind of play a Prince John on turn 3, turn 4, maybe you're playing 2 sudden chills or you're hypnotizing and then singing a sudden chill. Um, this deck you essentially have 8 sudden chills. Your undermines can't be sung, but they have really good upside with the additional strength. There's way more explosive turns that you have at that point. Um, we added Dragonfires to provide more of that like really explosive single target removal, in addition to maxing out the brawls. Like I say, the Lilos went. We added more evasive 2-drops because quite often with just 8 2-drops, 4 1-drops, you were missing in the early game, and it's really hard to win the board back. More Mauis just for contesting the board. And what we ended up with is a really consistent discard deck that kind of the only thing that the only reason that I don't love it is it lives and dies a bit by how well Robin Hood lives. So if you have a Prince John in play and then you have a Robin Hood sharpshooter that lives long enough to quest, that game is almost always over.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get your free
It's
action
not
from
too
Robin,
much to ask, honestly. It's not. It's
no,
not.
it's not.
Yeah, it's
And
not.
it's
Yeah.
and in the first instance, it's benefiting massively from, like we were just saying about those issues that Red Purple has into the Horizon decks. Well, there are fewer brawls around, basically. And fewer brawls is really good news for Robin Hood, because it's like the main thing that takes him out. So yeah, he was living a lot and getting to play a ton of free actions, and then you're just generating massive loads of cards from Prince John, pretty easily running your opponent out of cards. It was just, yeah, it kind of does exactly what you think it would. The sharks got inked most of the time, but often late, just one off the top really clinches the game. Yeah, very versatile deck. Looks totally playable. I think it's like a solid tier 2 contender. This isn't gonna set the world on fire, but I was pretty happy with the time I spent with it, and we wound up with a pretty consistent deck that, if you're looking to have some fun as well, this was a massive amount of fun to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could imagine.
Most
And then Robin Hood in general should be a fun card to play with. I can
Yeah,
imagine.
and it was a lot of fun as well because it had JDZ backseating, and we were having a lot of fun when like questing with Robins, and then just like everyone getting very excited when Robin hits things and very sad when he misses, because yeah, Robin Hood does miss. And I would say as well, to anyone that wants to play like a Robin Hood sharpshooter deck, it's worth reading the card that the other cards go into your discard rather than on the bottom of the deck, because I
Mm-hmm.
once nearly decked myself out without really
Mm-hmm.
realizing it. And then I looked and I was like, oh, 7 cards left in my deck. Okay, I'm gonna lose because I've quested like 5 times with Robin. Um, but yeah, I really like the card. And actually, Undermine was kind of the missing piece to put together a red-green deck with a high density of discard that adds that density of discard effect so that you get so many more options to empty your
I
opponent's
totally can
hand,
see that.
but provides this, an undermine with a Prince John in play, and then you target your Ursula Deceiver or something with the extra 2 strength and trade up. Like, that's really, really good. All these decks were really missing was that ability to kind of trade efficiently in the early game because everything's kind of weak. But Undermine helps fill that gap a bit, and just looks like a great pickup for making this kind of deck work. I don't know how much more time I'll spend with this. I already feel a little bit like I spent too long with it, but I had a lot of fun, and I think been a little while since I poured a fair bit of time into a proper brew like this. I was very happy with it, and it's something I would take to a set championship, and maybe I'll spend a bit more time developing with it. But
I'm
for
totally
now,
excited
that's
by
kind of
this.
that's it.
I want to play this. But
Really,
you
want to
think
play a deck with Prince John in it?
you think I can't, right? You think I can't?
I think that your dignity will not allow you to sleeve up the card Prince John, greediest of all.
I think you have false assumptions of each other. I think you
Okay.
think I can't play Prince John, and I think you think if you play Prince John in your deck, you already won the game before the game started.
Yes. Correct.
Correct.
Yep. True.
Oh, then I made the right assumption. Sorry. No, I'm stupid if I couldn't, but no, I'm excited in this, and I think all what you say like looks it sounds not very sounds not bad, to be honest. Like it sounds promising a bit. But I could imagine like you struggle sometimes with card draw as well. I could imagine like if you don't have Diablo or something like I don't know. Maybe sometimes.
Where you really feel the difference is where you don't draw Prince John.
Yeah,
if you don't have a Prince
okay,
John on turn 3, it's a very different deck, and you are wouldn't go as far as saying fighting for your life, but it's a rough one. That's the downside of like increasing this density of discard in a deck, when it's all so dependent on getting the card back from Prince John. With 4 Prince Johns, you draw it consistently, of course, but
but
there
even
will
the
be
other
times you don't,
discard
and
decks,
it's different.
Even the other discard decks have some kind of backup game plan if you don't hit him.
Yes.
So so it's probably needed to have at least a kind of a backup game plan.
I mean, it's I guess the challenge with this one is that there is a strong backup game plan here, but the backup game plan is really good at like not losing versus winning, if that makes sense. So where the other discard decks like really struggle to catch back up on board, with this, often you're so happy to just tap out for a Maui and start solving all your problems with a Maui. That does not progress you towards victory, but it does delay what your opponent's doing and help you buy the time to find the cards you need. So in general, it's not very good practice to not lose rather than win. You should probably try to win. It's there are upsides.
The only sad thing is that this deck gets targeted by the same things that the other popular decks get targeted as well. That's a bit of a problem.
Yes.
Like Kit, for example, is also like a very good card against Robin Hood. I think you will feel very bad if your Robin Hood gets kitted. And like all the other cards, like meta will search for answers for Ursula 3 and stuff, and then kind of the same answers for that card. That's a bit sad.
That's a really good observation, because that is the big problem. Certainly the worst match I had with this, of all the testing, came up against a Muses deck, and they played their Muses, and I was like, oh. I can't ever kill this. And I think I played the same Robin Hood like 5 turns in a row. And obviously, like, because they're a Muses deck, they take a million years to win. But also, I came quite close to coming back. I was like, I'll just keep playing this Robin until you run out of actions to
Just put in
bounce in with
the
muses.
King Undisputed, easy, to kill the muses.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there is another angle you can take with red green. You can make it more like you can focus more on like removal actions than discard. But for me, I think Prince John's a little too good
Yeah.
to not be playing. Yeah. So yeah, for anyone interested in like taking an underplayed color combo for a spin this set, I think there's real legs to something like this. But I'm not throwing it in the tier 1 category. I'm saying it's pretty firmly below that, but a very playable deck for sure.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Speaking of Prince John's,
Mm,
you also worked on a green purple discards
yeah.
version, right? Of with new cards. Tell me
hmm
your insights.
Yeah. So we'll talk about pull the lever and wrong lever a fair bit now as we explore different green purple builds.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that wrong lever is a super good card. It's unbelievably good when you have a pull the lever
Mm-hmm.
in the discard, as we said. Obviously, it has this massive upside when you've got one of those. In my experience with different green purple builds, it's reasonably tough to get that first one into the discard. You're usually quite late into the game before you have the space to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are cards that can help you do that. So things like strike a good match, but then you're kind of going pretty deep just to enable something that's
Mm-hmm.
the payoff becomes is not high enough to warrant this like putting extra cards in your deck just to do this. But certainly the best it feels is when you discard your pull the lever to shift Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which to me is the biggest reason by far to play green purple discard in set 8.
Mm-hmm.
The build you see here is not too different to the builds of the past. It's close to what I played at the end of set 7, which was moving away from Peter Pan Iago because those cards just felt so slow and like they were solving yesterday's problems. Um, like we settled into this meta where Amber Steel was just so good and was everywhere, and then I'm jamming the Argos and thinking, what am I doing? Why is this card still in the
Mm-hmm.
deck? Yeah, move back towards that kind of build that I showed last week with Ursula's, and this basically just cuts hypnotizes for the pull the lever wrong lever suite, which I think is fine. It's there's a really the finest point of testing required here is balancing the numbers between your actions now. I really don't have full confidence in the right numbers of pull the lever versus wrong lever versus hypnotize. Um, I've settled with this for now because I kind of want to be as high as possible on both of them. Um, wrong when you've got Brunos to play as removal in the deck,
Mm-hmm.
um, you don't feel so much like you need to be maxed on wrong lever, but I still want to be maxed on pull the lever for it's
Mm-hmm.
most important to get one into the bin so that when you are playing lever, it's really, really good. Yeah, so these numbers I'm pretty comfortable with for now, but I don't have total confidence in them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same deck it's always been, but now you have even better top decks because you basically gain 4 extra copies of Friends. You have better removal because wrong lever is a great removal option, and when it's online, it's like unparalleled. I think this deck is still very, very playable.
Yeah, of course.
It it was good all through set 7. People cooled down on it a little bit, but I sort of stayed high on it for the most part. And yeah, I think its upgrades are pretty direct. All I would say is I'm really not interested in playing these pan Iago versions of the deck. I just want to be doing basically what you see before you here.
I wonder why people played in this card. I really wonder why they played Peter Pan Iago. You have already like 7 3 cost unincumbent. I mean, you can say Diablo
Yeah,
is not, but it is somehow still. So that can get very clunky. So I totally
yeah,
can
for
see why
sure.
you're not liking that much. Although I am the greatest Peter Pan believer in this whole world, but not in Discard. I didn't like it that much, to be honest. I mean,
No.
it's a Diablo fight, but you have Diablo fights as well. You have Diablos as well, and you have these 2-cost Diablos to maybe kill it. So, of course, you will lose maybe some games where you can't deal with a Diablo, but nah, I don't know. I wouldn't play
Yeah,
them.
it's
Yeah.
a lot of the time you easily have the space to get to an Elsa, get to a Genie. You get to shift your own Diablo and then play like a 2-cost Diablo on turn 2, sometimes into like mirror type situations, and then just take your trade if they or force them to trade. You're not so struggling for Diablo answers that you need to be playing like a bunch of Peter Pans and Iagos. I'm like such a huge Iago hater at the moment, and
Yeah,
it's
that's for good reason.
it
That's for
the
good
card
reason.
is warped. It's warped the way I feel about green purple, and I see these builds like maxed on Iagos, maxed on Peter Pans, and I'm just left with this feeling that we got into these genie wars in the past, and it just seems to have had like a lasting effect on us,
Yeah.
and we haven't.
Iago
We're
is not
solving.
is
We're
not
solving.
playable right now. I think Iago as a
No,
card.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so at all. Yeah, Yeah, and so part of like our fractured opinion on different decks, on different green purple decks that we kind of touched on last week was a lot of it, as I unpicked the way I felt about like, why am I so high on discard and so low on tempo? Well, actually, it came down to two things. It was that a lot of people in tempo were playing a bunch of Iagos, and I'd look at it and just go, "Bleh, keep that deck away from me." And they were also playing a bunch of rabbits over genies. All I knew was I wanted my conditions for a green purple deck that I wanted to play were actually just, does it have 4 genies? Yes, good. Does it have 0 Iagos? Brilliant. As long as those conditions are met, I'm fine. And outside of that, everything else can flex. So I don't know if I'm sort of higher on a discard build like this or a more tempo build like you're about to show us. But as long as those conditions are met, I'm very happy with green purple.
Okay,
And
so I
yeah,
have to be
appreciate that's
really,
like
so I have to be
yes,
really careful to not add a single rabbit into my deck, right?
you can have a single rabbit is fine
Okay, okay.
as long as the rabbits only come after genie number 4,
Okay.
right? So it's like they can no splitting, none of that. And that's
No,
probably like I'm pushing it too far,
I
but
don't know.
the
I know
essence
what you
is
mean. I know what you mean.
yeah, the essence is that I want to generally be playing with Genie at the moment. And now that all these Horizon decks are out there and I'm more interested in emptying my hand rather than slowly grinding to outdraw, there's even more reason, right?
Yeah, the thing is, people people will I don't know, maybe bash me for that. I say that so often and I never got bashed, so I
Yeah,
probably
no one
just
cares.
I just stop it. But I think the wrong lever, pull the lever combo
Mm,
suits tempo way more than this card, and I tell you why.
yeah,
Because I don't want to bash green purple discard. It's a good deck. I don't want to bash it in general, but I think the additions are so well suited for green purple tempo, and I'm so happy
yeah,
that the cards seem to do the thing that I wanted them to do, because they seem not like they appeared not like they did it that much for tempo, but they are for multiple reasons. The first thing is like I was always struggling because um, Rabbit versus Genie, because there were enough games where I ran out of cards, and I think
hmm
you hate the games where you run out of cards.
yeah,
That losers feel terrible. So, and maybe they feel more terrible than just some other losers. So you always want to prevent that from happening. What the new combo does for us is like, I think you have enough card draw now to play without rabbits, and that makes
mm,
me really happy. because I know the struggles of Rabbit because they are still kind of slow. I mean, it's not super slow, but it can be slow. So I can see the upsides of Genie, of course, but then you have to do something. You have to do more card drawing. You have to have more card drawing deck than just slamming Genies. That's not enough.
Yes.
So my first testing was great with Green Purple Temple because I have now 4 friends for Pull Deliver for Genie. I never struggled with card draw at all, and you have amazing top deck potential. That's what I love.
Yeah.
So the main goal, what I would like to reach with Green Purple, is like just managing to have enough cards to consistently slamming cards, you can say, but not run out of cards, and even can sometimes like I would still like to have sometimes a bit of potential, like to do a bit of grindy stuff, to not like lose to too early Calhouns or something that also
Yeah,
feels
sure.
bad. So like you have a bit of grinding potential I would still like to have. So I played a lot with numbers. I tried rabbits a bit, like 2 or 3 copies, but then I thought, okay, I'll play complete without it, and it feels great. So Pull the Lever adds more to the deck that it's, you could say, like, if you look at the card, suggests you to, because it's like the missing piece of having enough card draw a lot of the times. So that's what this card provides. And Pull the Lever, the wrong lever is the card, is really the card that Green Purple Tempo needed. I said it when it was revealed, and I'm not wrong with that, because it's like it is what you said. Like it's an inkable Madanos Best. That's all I ever wanted. It's not a song, of course, but that can also be an upside, not to be forgotten. That it can also be an upside to be not a song. So like if they go for Beast Shift lines or so, it's a very reliant Beast Shift answer for more Beast Shift lines or something like that. I can use it still to bounce my own cards. That can also not be forgotten. So like you can bounce your goat still and stuff in the end game. That came up a lot of times. And a card like this, Inkable, is a dream for Green Purple. And it's more needed in Green Purple Temple because Green Purple this card has already the Bruno, so it's not that they needed the card that much. I mean, it's a cool card, of course, for them, because if it's online, it's great, of course, but it's not like this card that they waited for printing, and Green Purple Temple waited really much for that. You could easily thinking about cut down more numbers of Elsa and stuff, because Elsa was the card, like, it's the only card of removal, but you need a bit of removal to not die to a random beast or something. And then you maybe don't need her anymore that much. So it is so great. The deck feels great and it feels strong, and it is as I mentioned, I played that did a lot in my Metafy, and then I was really surprised how well it does against these 2 Horizon decks, because you are like you need to play it correctly. That's really true, of course. But what you can do very often is like dumping your hand, and then the last card in your hand is either a genie or Pull the Lever or something like that. So you kind of either they don't want to Horizon you, but then you have like still gas in your hand. So and that way I was able to simply quest out a lot of games. And I still love, and I think people, for example, Flynn is a card people totally underrate, in my opinion, because Flynn was always played in Green Purple in set 3, and it also came out because of the big Sisu, the 2 Sisus, like the human Sisu and the big Sisus, and for no other reason, I think Flynn came out of the deck. And he's back in, and I love it. And I absolutely love the combination between Murfolk Flynn and Peter Pan. That's if I have Murfolk Flynn, Peter Pan, I think I. It's not the case, but I think I win the game because I force them awkward trades, and then I run over with Peter Pan. I just love this synergy so much, and we have. Unfortunately, we have a lot of counterplay to what's happening right now with Ursula and Kit. Kit is
Yep.
also great right now. And yeah, I think for me, my personal feeling is like it's not only green steel and amber steel, like also green purple is a top contender for the meta game right now. And it's not
Yeah.
necessarily, I don't want to say this card is not because I don't work on it, so I can't say much about it, but at least green purple tempo for me is a top deck. It has really good matchup against both of these decks, and they struggle against a lot of things we do. And they don't respect, many decks don't respect what we do. I mean, I don't know if any of you listeners like played against red purple with this deck. I mean, even the set 7 doesn't need to be in set 8. It was often so easy. If you open Merfolk Flynn, they they didn't play rabbits anymore, so they run out of cards so much, and then you simply do nothing, then just make them discard a card, and yeah, and you win the game. It was often very easy, and still you have a lot of like go and goat stuff where you, if you're on 14 15 low, it's kind of easy often to close out the game. So yeah, I'm maybe was a bit long speech now, but I'm I'm high on the deck. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think to kind of wrap up everything we've been talking about today, this deck meets like a lot of the conditions that we're noticing of this, or what it appears the day one metagame will look like. If you consider that based on what we're seeing right now, you probably want to be playing something that enables you to disrupt
Mm-hmm.
horizons and like, but by extension just song decks, like steel based song decks, so
Mm-hmm.
green steel, amber steel. You want a decent package to disrupt that. You want a deck that is capable of dumping its hand but also can grind reasonably efficient. Like, it does have the option to grind. It's not just like a spew your hand game over deck,
Mm-hmm.
but can play at a varied pace. And you want a deck that has good top decks so that you can get out of rough situations where you
Mm-hmm.
run out of cards. So you have like 12, at least 12 live top decks to totally kickstart your game again by drawing you back in. Plus a variety of, like you say, answers for many of the top threats in the format, like Diablo, that sort of thing. Like, this just ticks all the boxes for me. This looks like what I want a deck to do right now. It does it all, for the most part. I'm not saying it's like the best deck in the format, but if you've got a format where those are the things happening, this has got to be a contender. It's got to
Yeah,
be.
of
Like,
course.
we're used to seeing conditions for green purple shift quite a lot. It can vary from being like a tier 1 to tier 2 deck. It's like never terrible, but also like has rare moments where it also is super good. I would say this looks like, looking at the anticipated metagame, the set 8, this looks like a really good place to start. If you wanna if you don't want to be the person doing the explosive stuff, this is, yeah, it looks like it's in a great spot to me.
Yeah, that's it's sad that we have no big set 8 tournaments. I'm really sad for that.
Yeah,
I wanna
yeah,
see people beat this.
yeah. I mean, it is sad in that regard. But looking ahead to the future, another thing you can say about this deck is this is like pretty resilient to rotation.
Oh yes.
There's a
Oh
lot
yes.
of good stuff here that doesn't go. Like, looking at green purple, obviously we don't know about reprints yet. So
Mm-hmm.
like, we hope that cards like Ursula Deceiver and Friends get a reprint. You would expect that those are the kind of like consistent mid-level balancing cards that probably are always going to exist in the game
I
and
think
would be
Kit
high
could
on the
also
list for
be
reprinting.
reprinted. I think Kit is also
Yeah.
maybe a card that I could see reprinting. I don't know if they see it like a core thing to green Kit, but maybe not. Maybe not. I don't
No.
know.
But we've got like looking ahead, we have our like Purple Diablo stays, Go-Go stays,
Genie.
Genies, Elsas. It's like a lot of our
Pull
tools
the
that
lever,
we,
wrong lever.
a lot of the things that we rely on
Yeah, I could also see
should
like
stay.
Flynn Murphy was also cards like they could see it like Green Identity a bit. So at
Yeah,
least the 2-cost Flynn I could see them reprinting. I don't know. It's like it's too much to talk into the dark to
yeah,
say
it's a lot of speculation.
I think it's a good way to start. I will work on this list
Yeah,
even
nice,
further. Yeah, that's
great.
that.
And I think, what's sad?
No, that's that. That's that.
Oh, I thought you said that's
No,
sad.
no, no,
I was
no,
like,
no, no,
you think green purple's good and that's sad because now
no,
we can't complain.
no, no, no. Yeah, exactly. I want to complain. No, I
We
think
have nothing to whine about.
I think it's still exciting. The rotation will be really really exciting. I
Yeah,
think there will be a
and it's
lot
going
of
to be
stuff
really,
gone that we are happy about. I think that they are gone.
yeah, but it all comes down to those reprints.
Yeah,
Like that everything could change or almost nothing could change. It's going to be a very interesting time. I would willingly give up like a lot of cards that I'm attached to for the sake of everybody else losing tons of stuff, if that makes sense. Like I
yeah.
would rather brew in a new environment than hold on to like my dearest cards. So yeah, I hope for more change than less, but there are some things that if they stay, just like very little change happens. But
And just to
yeah,
understand you better, um,
mm,
is this a fair deck? Is this green purple tempo a fair deck?
it it's a good question. It is a fair deck. Yeah, this is a fair deck.
Is it a fair deck? Okay, then it's bad,
It is a
right?
fair deck. No, it's not bad because it's not so fair that I don't know. Just it's complete mental gymnastics to like sort out how I feel about this stuff. It's definitely a fair deck, but actually, like one of the things that I'm thinking whenever I say like a deck is too fair to be good, in the context of green purple, when I say that about a green purple build, usually what I mean is like what I'm actually trying to say is you've thrown out all of your two questers and filled the deck with like giant birds that have vanish.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
now the deck is too fair, and you will lose a lot. As long as for green purple to like be what I want to do, it should always have a really strong proactive plan. Like it should always be able to race the decks that it needs to race. If I'm ever playing it and I'm like,
you said I didn't cut the flints. I was the
no,
player
you
that.
didn't.
Yeah.
No,
Okay. Yeah. No.
no, many people
Yeah.
did.
Many people did, and I think
And even
that's.
I did when I tried to play it, and I
Okay.
just
And
thought, what am I
that's
doing?
you can't do that. Yeah. I think.
No, you
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Because we got rid of Banzai's because obviously Storm is everywhere, and basically
Mm-hmm.
we ended set 7 with Amber Steel as the best deck in the format. We can't really play Banzai's at the moment. And then just stopped playing two questers altogether. A lot of people haven't put Flynn in their deck. You're probably one of the only ones. And
Now
you're
I
without.
would say. I don't say Flynn is generally busted. It's just you need a two quester, and Flynn is the best
Yes, you do.
choice. That's
Yeah,
that's 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 what I say. I mean, in
yeah.
some situations, Banzai could also be good, but then it's an uninkable, and Flynn is never doing this card disadvantage, and that's good enough. So
Yeah,
for me, yeah.
yeah. I totally agree. You have
So
to have something performing that role, and Flynn is better than Banzai for it at the moment.
so to say, this is what is it then? It's a fair deck, but it's
It is,
it's
yeah, it's a fair deck. Yeah.
it's a fair deck, but it's a good. There are good and bad fair decks, you could say. Uh,
It's probably I need to
I
stop
don't. I
thinking in
just
terms
want
of
to
fair and unfair
understand you
decks.
better, my friend. I just want to understand you better.
Yeah,
Because
well, I don't know how you're going to get that to happen because my opinions change like the wind. And basically, I'll frame it in any way I need to get whatever I'm thinking across. Like, just tomorrow, this will be an unfair deck, and
uh,
yeah, I don't
uh,
know.
and
Um,
tomorrow it will maybe be bad. You
yeah, well, just enjoy today. For today, I think it's fantastic. Um, until I lose a bunch of games with it, but yeah, for today, I think it's great. And but I really, really strongly believe in that like general conclusion from early testing is that like a lot of the stuff that you want in this format, green purple is capable of delivering. Um, just don't build it too soft to steal. Don't jam a load of Viagos in. Um, and I think you can't go too far wrong.
That's true. I would say that. So I'm already like thinking about some other. So you have to play green or steel right now. I think it
I think
seems
so.
like.
I would agree.
So you
Yep.
have to play Pete or Ursula, and
Hmm.
that's a bit weird for the format. I have to admit, like
Yes.
that's
It's not healthy.
that's not healthy. Yeah. So there are still some other, maybe still some other. No, you have to play green or steel or blue yellow. One of these three.
Okay. You could also
to
be playing, yeah, Ludwig dot
yeah.
deck.
But yeah, I'm still interested in trying more of these things out. I hope there will be more decks to come because, but that's my last thing. I said that. Oh, not I didn't say it that often, but the most people said red purple seems so dead for me. But they came out of nowhere every time. So
Yep.
I'm really interested if they find again a way to crawl them back. But
They
yeah,
will. Yeah,
they will.
there's only so bad that deck can be. It's just
Yeah, probably.
yeah,
Yeah,
never count it out. It's always fine, and it's
yeah,
just much like green purple. It goes up and down in terms of how it's positioned, and sometimes it feels squeezed.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it will find its way back in, guaranteed.
Okay, I think that's a good way to sum it up, right?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, next week I will be on a big tournament on the weekend. Like there's
Hmm.
always this release tournament here in Germany when a new set comes
Yep.
out. So I think I'm very excited for that. Um, but then yeah, I maybe can tell you next week about my insights there,
Yep.
and then we will already have like the deck list from the tournament, or maybe there are also already some other tournaments with because set 8 will release this weekend. So I think it will be a very exciting week
Yeah,
next week.
I'm going to be at UK Games Expo this weekend playing set 8 sealed on Friday,
Oh,
and
nice.
the constructed main event on Saturday is set 7. So um yeah, I got to find a set 7 deck I want to play.
You
But
just play
that will be
green
less
purple
interesting
discard.
to talk about because it's a older format.
Hmm.
I imagine we'll spend most of our time looking ahead rather talking
Yeah.
about set 7 decks. But yeah, if people are at UK Games Expo, I'll be there playing in a main event. So if you are around, please do say hello. And yeah, look forward to hanging out with people as always.
Nice. Okay. Then thanks everyone for watching, and till
Yep.
next week, and bye bye.
Yep. Bye bye.